もう部活終わったの？洗濯するから何かあるなら早めに。
The classic accident. Beach episode, bath episode. Look at that, another bath episode. That's pretty weird, I guess. I don't even know what's supposed to be happening here. Okay, this is literally a hentai. Chill, dude. It's just a bra. Yep, just another naked girl. Maybe I've just seen too many of these types of scenes. They just don't hit like they used to. I mean, cool, I guess, but why? I don't know. I guess it's just...
So the mighty Audrey is running out of strength, is she? Don't worry, I'll put you out of your misery.
God damn! Oh Lord almighty, help me! Bro is double cheeked up on a Sunday afternoon! Happy birthday to me! I would have been happy with just a cake, but he bought the entire bakery! Bro is giving Miguel a run for his money! Call me Aaron Yeager, cause I'm about to lose it all! Worst anime. It's practically all Isekai again. This season was particularly rough compared to the last few videos I've made. And man, was my 3-episode rule really being pushed to the limits here, guys. I tried here. I really tried. But some of these shows were so dry, I could barely make it past 1 episode.
このホールをきっちりまとめていただくわ。イブのキスは。
I've never been more invested in a game of golf in my life. I'm personally sad to say that Birdie Wing Part 2 and I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real one too. For the love of God, please make these titles shorter! Were amongst the most disappointing of the season. I remember Birdie Wing being a fun watch in part 1, but this second part just got so convoluted with weird golf politics and convoluted family twists, who's related to who. You're telling me, after we spent half a season getting these girls together, you're gonna rip them apart again with a whole bunch of forced melodrama? All I wanted to do was watch some gay girls golf. Is that too hard to ask for? Yeah, I'm not saying that again. The first episode of Cheat Skill in Another World surprisingly showed that the series had some really good potential. Seeing Tenjo having to struggle with his looks but still try his hardest to be a good person despite what others say surprisingly endeared me to his character a lot. When he got his glow up, I was really happy for him and was really interested to see where the series would go, especially since he wasn't cocky or arrogant about his new looks. Then episode 2 happened and it was so boring! It became your typical overpowered isekai story with a new girl being added to the harem every episode, except the MC this time around is just a little timid.
Why is my one-hit kill sister here, Josh? It doesn't deserve to be here.
God damn it, why does the incest bait actually have to look good?
Nah, this is my type of shit.
You know, even though a majority of these nominations here are isekai, I'm surprised to tell you that the winner isn't a single one of them. That's right, all these isekais are saved by none other than... Worst Anime. Alice Gear Aegis Expansion. So, this show had a prologue episode? When I was watching it, I 100% thought I was watching the first episode and was so lost. But apparently it's an old OVA that for some reason they put as episode 0 of the series wherever you looked, even though it has nothing to do with the series that we're going to be talking about. This prologue made absolutely no sense, and it just made a ton of random references to much better anime.
I understood that reference.
The real first episode isn't that much better. So apparently there was this war with this alien species that drove humanity away from Earth. And now, the remnants of humanity are forced to live on shattered pieces of the moon. The only hope humanity has left is in the form of actresses, an elite group of people who are able to pilot the only things that can fight against the aliens. Sounds interesting, right? I got all of that from the description. This might be tagged with action and sci-fi, but this is nothing more than a lazily animated moe. There's so much potential in this premise, but the tone of the show is just so wrong. It is the hardest bait and switch I've seen in a while. I'm not even mad that it's moe. I like moe. But there is no chemistry between any of the characters, and the constantly rotating cast does this no favors. And speaking of characters, they are all these moe blobs just devoid of any personality beyond the typical tropes. They're trying way too hard to make these characters cute, but it just comes off as annoying. What happened here? Oh. Yeah, that pretty much explains it all. Best boy. A big theme this season between the boys is just being good people. Yamada might be a bit awkward, but he has a good heart. Nakami is a shy introvert, but he's such a reliable friend. Shima's a joyous beam that needs to learn to let people in. Lionheart is the definition of a strong leader, and Gabimaru takes the cake for the most loyal husband out there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, me personally, I probably would have folded. This was an incredibly close call, but of all the boys listed here, there's one that raises above the rest of them to earn the title of the goodest boy this season. Best boy. Taiyo Takeda, my clueless first friend. When we're talking about good boys, it is hard to compete with the pure-hearted innocence of a child, when they're not portrayed as the little shits that they are. When Takeda transfers to a new school, he finds that the entire class has focused all of their bullying attention on a lone, shy girl by the name of Nishimura. They've given her the title of Grim Reaper, and they treat her as if she's the living embodiment of the cheese touch. At this point, she's gotten used to the harassment and has accepted her role as a class pariah. Then comes Takeda. Hearing the word Grim Reaper, his imagination goes into overdrive as he thinks she's the coolest person to have ever existed. The constant compliments he gives her aren't because he's a simp, he just genuinely believes what he's saying. As the episodes go on, you might begin to wonder how self-aware he is. Is he able to tell reality from fiction, or is it just one big blob to him? Slight spoilers for episode 5, so if you want to go in super fresh, skip to Best Girl. When he finds out Nishimura's mom died, Takeda becomes incredibly self-conscious about the nickname of the Grim Reaper, as her mom had died in childbirth. What he thought of as a playful nickname suddenly twists into a painful jab in his mind with a new context. But Nishimura has never thought of it that way. His apology comes out in sobs, and Nishimura comforts him as they walk home. By episode 5, there is more character development between the both of them than there is in most rom-com series. After a brief stint of awkward remorse, he gets right back to his normal self. But this time, he has her blessing. If you ever wondered what a golden retriever would look like as a human, you're looking right at him. If we all had someone like Takeda in our lives, depression just would not exist. Best Girl. Yep, we've gotten to the point where a lizard is genuinely being nominated for Best Girl.
I mean, no shame, I'd hit it.
But if you've seen the show, then you know that you cannot blame me for this. Ame is an impossibly sweet character and is a strong contender for Best Girl along with Tadafi. Oshinoko certainly threw their hat in the ring for this season. A lot of female characters it had were surprisingly interesting and a lot more depth than I would have thought. Except for you, Ruby. You're kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. The Horny was definitely released this season. If I talk too much about Yuzuriha or Sagari, I'm gonna get in trouble here. So let's just leave it off at their nominations for now. I feel like Cafe Terrace and its goddesses should have been ripe with Best Girl material, but if I'm being honest here, the only girl that really grabbed my attention was Akane. Even with their character-centric episodes, the others kinda just fell flat for me. We also had a ton of wholesome girls this season too. Yamada, Mitsuri, Akane, Sadafi, Magari, Suika, and Nishimura were all too good for this world. You would think that with so many girls, it would have been hard to pick the best out of all of them, but it was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Josh, I swear to fucking God, if it's not I...
Calm down there, buddy. Just wait for the results before you start complaining. Best Girl. Mitsumi, Iwakura, Skip, and Loafer.
God damn it, Josh!
This ain't even your show, man! There's just something about Mitsumi that is so endearing to watch on screen. She's a classic country bumpkin, and though she may be a bit socially awkward, she's also incredibly socially aware. Sure, she might not be able to land her jokes or be able to get what she wants to say out correctly, but she's fairly competent when it comes to picking up what others are laying down. She has an incredible curiosity about the world, and her dreams of getting into politics to better the world she lives in is both incredibly respectable as well as naive. It's going to be interesting to see how her character grows in order to meet those dreams, because if she gets into politics the way she is now, she's either going to get completely chewed out, or stepped on, or just die inside. But if you think she's weak, you've got another thing coming. After overhearing a couple of girls talking about her behind her back and getting an adorable pick-me-up from Shima, Mitsumi had this to say.
私はね、島くん。多少ド派手に転ぶことが多い人間だけど、その分、起き上がるのもむちゃくちゃ得意なんだから。
She might have a child's view of the world on politics, but she has the resolve to keep pushing forward. She puts her all into everything she does, whether it be school or her friends. I hope we get season 2 of Skip and Loafer because I absolutely need to see more of Mitsumi's blunders and triumphs. Best Isekai and Fantasy. Now I know that a lot of these Isekai were nominated for Worst Anime, but they can't be that bad, can they?
Hey Josh, I think you're forgetting something.
No, Sora, I'm not watching In Another World with my smartphone season 2. I don't care how many times you've begged me to, I'm not gonna do it!
Stop the cap, Josh. I know this is your favorite anime. You're just scared to admit it.
Yeah, whatever you say, buddy. From what I've heard, Dead Mount Deathplay was pretty good, but I never got around to watching it, so I can't really say anything about it. So without further ado... Best Isekai. Otaku Elf. It's technically a reverse isekai about an elf that got sent to the human realm and lives in a small modern-day town. Oh yeah, and she's a giant otaku. Her caretaker is a young girl and a ton of shenanigans ensue. I don't have too much else to say about this. It's a nice comfort series if you have the time and it's fairly relaxing. I almost put Best Isekai down as not applicable until I remembered this one. We've run into quite a different problem when it comes to fantasy this season though. I'm having a hard time picking just one looking at this lineup. Konosuba and Ranking Kings return in this prequel-esque series. The main plot may not be continuing yet, but if you like the world and characters of the series, then you'll enjoy these seasons. Speaking of returns, Senku also sails his way into this season with new inventions and new friends. But the new seasonals also put up a hell of a fight. Sacrificial Beast Princess, Mash and the Sorcerer's Gains, and the Legendary Hero is Dead were all incredibly enjoyable for their own unique reasons. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to make this choice, but if I had to choose just one... Best Fantasy. Dr. Stone, New World. It was a pretty close toss-up between a few of these, but none of them could match the excitement I had each week when it came to the new episode of Dr. Stone. I finished reacting to Season 2 quite a while ago, but I never realized how much I missed the show until the first episode of Season 3 started. Now that the war arc has been settled, the show is undergoing an exploration phase. The pacing is just as exhilarating as it was before, but now instead of building up to a war, we're finally getting into the reasons as to why everyone was turned to stone. This does everything that sequel needs to do. We've changed gears, introduced new characters, and we're now building upon everything that we've already known with new mysteries. Combine that with 2 seasons of build-up, and this was an easy win for Dr. Stone. Best Romance and Slice of Life. Never thought I'd say this, but this was way too much romance for me to keep up on. Even a few of the fantasy nominations are strong contenders for this bracket.
Mind your tongue around me. I needn't wait for the night of the ceremony to do with you as I wish, you know. I could tear out your delicate little throat on a whim here and now. Do you still not fear me?
Oh yeah, harder daddy.
Yes! Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts is on the more wholesome side of romance. Skip and Loafer, Insomniacs After School, My Love Story with Yamada-kun, and The Dangers in My Heart also hit exceptionally hard with their characters and romantic development.
Josh, I think you forgot something.
No, I didn't forget. I just didn't watch it.
How could you not?
It's literally a hentai.
Actually, it's art.
Please just get out of my room. Though we did have some bangers, there were also quite a few shows that ended up on the more disappointing side. I don't know why, but I could not get myself invested in the reason why Ray Liana ended up at the Duke's mansion. Yuri is My Job was something I was kind of excited for, but it failed to deliver on the most important aspect. The Yuri. How am I supposed to enjoy a salsa without any of the spice? Something that should have been right up my alley was the Cafe Terrace and its goddesses. The TLDR of this show is basically just quintuplets, but they aren't related. 5 girls, 1 smart guy, none of the overwhelming chemistry. I mean, it was fine and I was able to watch it all, but the relationship pacing he had with each of the girls was way too fast for some of them to be believable, and half the girls can be pretty annoying at times. Except you, Akane. You're perfect. Oh yeah! Oshinoko was pretty mid, I guess. On the more wholesome side, we had Tanakawa Season 2, 2Q Crisis, My Clueless First Friend, and A Galaxy Next Door.
Is he a single dad?
Leave me alone! Ah! With so many to choose from, I thought it would be harder to choose a winner, but it didn't take too long for me to file down the candidates until we ended up with the final two. Best Slice of Life: Skip and Loafer. With incredible chemistry between the cast, it should not be a surprise that this one shot itself to the top. Every character feels alive, each with having their own personality and experiences that make them a memorable part of the cast. But the show isn't only just good times. There were some serious undertones to a couple of the characters that lead to entertaining drama. When the manga community stood up in celebration over the announcement of this anime, I knew I was going to be in for a treat. Best Romance: Insomniacs After School. My love story with Yamada would have been an easy choice here, and trust me, I was considering it for the win. But there was something so genuinely beautiful about our little Insomniacs that won me over. Both are great, but there was a scene from episode 5 of Insomniacs that won me over for the rest of the series. Slight spoilers if you want to go in blind. Skip to Best Action. Yeah, I've been there. That feeling where you know you need to sleep but you can't. You have something important that you need to do in the morning. Something you want to have your full attention on. You know you need to rest. It's been a long day. Your body is too tired to do anything. Your eyes are too heavy to open. Your bed has never looked so good before. But for some reason, your brain refuses to turn off. The building frustration quickly boils into anger as you toss and turn violently, hoping against hope that you'll finally find that one spot that'll let you rest. But it only makes it worse. Hours go by and you've been conscious for all of them. It's nothing but you and your thoughts in the darkness, and the more you think, the more awake you become. Now you know that even if you do fall asleep, you're in for a long and grueling day. It's enough to make you go mad. It's enough to make you go crazy. Sometimes all you want to do is... That's when I knew that this show was special. This episode in itself might be one of my favorites of the season. The show in general was such a warm ride. The two protagonists are made for each other, and you can't help but root for them. Watching Nakima and Magari slowly build up their friendship and being able to watch it evolve into something more is just so sweet and heartwarming. The show is really slow paced, and it takes its time to get to places. But the slow burn is what I really appreciate about it. I don't feel like the show is in a rush to cram anything in. I'm just there for the ride, and I love it. Ironically enough, I've spent many nights fighting back the urge to sleep just so I can watch the latest episode right before bed. Yeah, this show is beautiful. Best Action. Wow! That's not a lot. Alright, let's get the two slackers out of the way. After a bombastic first episode, I gotta say, Magical Destroyers ended up being more disappointing than I thought it would be. I see a lot of praise for this in the Crunchyroll comment section, and apparently if you don't love this show, then you're not a true anime fan. But man, is the pacing hard to get through. It's both episodic but also plot heavy, with a promise for something much deeper building up behind the scenes, but after 9 episodes, I could not force myself to watch the end. Pulling back on the mayhem that was Magical Destroyers, My Home Hero is a much slower paced show about a father and a mother doing everything they can to save their daughter from the Yakuza. And after 4 episodes, I have dubbed this as a read the manga type of show. I am interested in seeing how the story goes down, but I'd like to read it at my own pace. Now we're left with the big boys. I'd be happy no matter who came out on top. So why don't we take a look? Best Action. Hell's Paradise.
Are you blind? Perfect. Look at that animation.
Yeah, Demon Slayer should have been the obvious choice, and I know I've talked about how other than the animation, the show was pretty mid. But if the show had stayed up to the quality that was the Entertainment District arc, it would have won Best Action this season with no competition. It's still animated beautifully, but the Swordsmith Village arc is missing the intensity that the Entertainment District arc had that made it so memorable. And on top of that, any momentum a fight had built up was constantly torn down by countless flashbacks to show us why we should care about these characters. And every time the screen went black when a demon was going to go for the killer blow, my eyes couldn't roll back further. I will say that the intensity that I was missing was brought back for the final episode, but one awesome episode can't make up for a lackluster season. Heavenly Delusions and Gundam are much more dramas with action in them than they are action that has drama in it. Hell's Paradise has kind of surprised me this season in the sense that not a lot of people seem to be talking about it. Sure, it's ranking highly, but compared to the others of the Dark Trio, this seems to be getting less attention. Which is kind of sad, because I think it's my favorite of the three. Between Chainsaw Man, Hell's Paradise, and Jujutsu Kaisen, I think Hell's Paradise has balanced the characters and the action a lot better than the other two. I don't know, the plot is pretty simple with kind of a Suicide Squad aspect to it. Basically, these convicts have to go to an island that has this elixir of life and they have to bring it back so they can get their freedom. And chaos ensues. There was a really cool mystery aspect to it about the lore of this island that I was really digging, and I don't know, there's just something about it. I like the characters quite a bit. Gabimaru, I think, is my favorite protagonist of the Dark Trio. I don't have too much else to say about it. I enjoyed this quite a bit.
Best ED.
Sometimes I wonder again and again. My best friend gave me the best advice.
Come on, I can't be the only one who hears it. This season has been chock full of bops and vibes when it comes to the EDs. If you're looking for some low-key vibes, Aimer's Atamaku, Sarah's Always and Forever, and Cody Lee's Dancing Lights for Ranking of Kings, Ray Liana, and Otaku Elf are the songs for you. Looking for something a bit heavier? Kahimato, Red Birthmark, Gospelin and Classic Love, and Mephisto are just tragically perfect. But if you're just looking to have a good time, look no further than Dr. Stone's Where Do We Go by Okamoto, or Mash in the Chamber of Lifting's Cho Cream Funk by Philosophy No Dance. Yeah, the title and artist should be enough to let you know how much of a bop this is. So the question is, in the end, was it the catchy bops, the chill vibes, or the emotional hitters that ended up winning this season?
Best ED.
Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury Part 2, Red Birthmark, by Aina, The End. The moment I heard that first cry, I knew this was going to be the ED of the season. Every time you hear the build up to the song while the episode is still playing is an absolute gut punch. The song is a perfect mix of betrayal and anguished love with some of the best visuals of any of the contenders. You can very easily see that this song is being sung through Miorine's point of view as she's crying out to save Suletta. As a character, Miorine has a hard time expressing herself, but the song cues in the audience as to how she's really feeling. The emotional turmoil she's going through as she does what she thinks is best for Suletta for the long run, even though it'll only hurt her in the present. All she wants to do is save Suletta from her red birthmark, the curse of being a Gundam pilot, but that's the only life Suletta knows. Add the visuals that perfectly capture the lyrics of the song, showing the heart-wrenching pain of Suletta and the emotional agony that Minorine is going through, and we have an easy winner for best ending this season.
Best OP.
Yeah, that's way more than there should be, but you can't blame me, okay? Some of these went way harder than they should have, especially for the shows that they're connected to. Yeah, I'm looking at you, I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World. How dare Tsukomi make such a banger for such a boring show? I may not have cared much about Ray Liana, but Minda Ryan's Survive goes so incredibly hard. From what I remember, Demon Slayer's OP wasn't too well received by fans at first, but I enjoy what Man with a Mission and Milate did with this one. Quite honestly, there are way too many OPs this season to go over in depth. Shinda, Mellow, Innocent Arrogance are way too catchy to be healthy. Magical Destroyers gives us some weird visuals with a banger song. Kind Romance and Saku no Nai might be my two most underrated songs of the season. Just like my last awards video, and probably going forward, instead of announcing just one winner, I'm going to give you my top 3.
Number 3.
The Legendary Hero Was Dead, Shinda, by Masayoshi Oishi. If there was a single song that screamed rave energy, it's this one. Shinda is the most infectious song this season, and you cannot tell me otherwise. It's nothing more than pure, unadulterated fun with the goofy visuals to boot. It is a crime to consider skipping this intro. It is just too much of a banger. Number 2. Skippin' Loafer, Mellow, by Kaina Suda. What can I say? I'm a sucker for the sweet and wholesome. Beautiful instrumentals, an adorable little dance, and wholesome lyrics. Every time this song came on, it was impossible not to get the warm and fuzzies. Number 1. Oshinoko, Idol, by Yosobi. I know, who could have seen this one coming? Oshinoko is the anime to have come out this season. Thanks to its hour-and-a-half long first episode, everyone and their great-grandma have been talking about this. And other than that first episode, I don't really see the hype. But Yosobi delivers yet another depressing song that you can play at your local rave and no one would be able to tell the difference. Who would have thought adding gothic opera to a cheerful, cute-sounding song would have been such a good idea? Alright, we all know the song. Perfectly capturing Ai's idea of what it means to be an idol, as well as her struggles with love, Idol perfectly summarizes the struggles and lies that go into being a top-of-the-line idol. Instead of playing an idol as a victim, the song goes all in and portrays the successful ones as manipulators, pulling the strings of the media and their fans with a cheerful smile and 3 simple words. For anyone who finished watching episode 1, you already know how well this can turn out. But the surprising twist on the idol genre was refreshing to hear in such a head-banging song. And having the second verse be from the perspective of jaded fans to create the haunting feeling of unease was just Best OST. Oh boy, those are some pretty good ones, and do I see a previous winner is coming back for more? Masato Yokoyama's score for MASH and The Prisoner of Leg Day never fails to get me hyped up whenever the action starts. One of the more standout parts of early on it was by far Kaiji Inai's enchanting OST, and Moe Hyoga's music for Magical Destroyers perfectly matched the chaos unraveling on screen. And of course, how can I forget about Dr. Stone, Gundam, and Demon Slayer, all 3 of which returning with such heavy hitters. Just looking at this list though, I think it's pretty obvious to know who's going to come out on top. Best OST. Dr. Stone Season 3, Tatsuya Kato, Hiroyaki Tsutsumi, and Yuki Kanasaka. For those of you expecting Gundam to take another dub this season, the score was more on the toned back side other than a few really strong tracks late season. I'm not saying Takashi Ohama's dropped the ball, quite the opposite. The tracks fit the scene really well, but the score for part 1 is still the best of the series so far, mostly because part 1 was more action oriented where this one was more drama oriented. And Yuki Kajura's work on this season of Demon Slayer is still just as good as her previous scores. But I just can't ignore the work done by Tatsuya Kato, Hideaki Tsutsumi, and Yuki Kanasaka for Dr. Stone Season 3. Just as the series has evolved, so has the soundtrack. It still keeps the same feel as seasons past, but now we've got some pretty awesome adventuring themes to go along with the epic fantasy vibes of seasons 1 and 2. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, maybe it's my bias to how great the score has always been, but when the first episode of Season 3 started playing, hearing the soundtrack again after months without it brought me right back into the awesome world that is Dr. Stone. Best Antagonist. Oh come on, we can't blame society for all of our problems, can we? Well, apparently you can, because most of the season's primary antagonists are, you guessed it, society. If you didn't hate bullies before, you're definitely gonna hate them now. Well, not as bad as the bully from Edgerunners, the class of My Clueless First Friend reminds me why I hate kids so much. MASH and the Order of Workouts, Sacrificial Princess, and Magical Destroyers all have their bits to say about society and the system, with some wanting to bring it down to the ground and others giving an entertaining commentary on the differences between cultures. The demons in Demon Slayer have never really been strong contenders for best antagonists since they tend to be evil for evil's sake, only to get a sad backstory at the last second to try and get the audience to sympathize with them. But I could really care less. And so, outside of society, that only leaves us with one villain left. Best Antagonist. Prospero Mercury, Gundam, the Witch from Mercury. Prospero Mercury puts the witch in The Witch from Mercury. My god, this woman is a girl boss machine. After having her entire station, comrades, friends, and family destroyed by the society of this Gundam universe, Prospera has vowed to create a world where her child can live safely in, and she will do whatever it takes to get it. Throughout part 1 of the series, Prospera took a backseat to the mecha action and the politics of the show, but she always had a presence. You could sense that something was not right with the way she interacted with her daughter, and that she was being used for her mom's end goal. It wasn't just Suletta who was being played, it was the entire cast. Prospera perfectly orchestrated the major events of the second half of the season to fit her endgame in a masterful plan that could potentially kill millions, but would give her daughter the freedom that was stolen from her. She has no love for the people that scorned her and her family, and her utter devotion to her daughter is absolutely terrifying. Miorine was always portrayed as a character who had a well-balanced head on her shoulders. Whatever obstacles came her way, she'd always find a way to twist it to her advantage. Even if she failed, at the very least she had come up with something. But when it came to Prospera, someone she knew not to trust and purposely kept a watchful eye on, all that ever happened was that she was left shattered in her hands. Absolutely no one was safe from Prospera's reign of terror this season. Best Protagonist.
It's only natural to want to put stockings on perfect thigh-shaped radishes. Ask anyone and they tell you the same thing.
You're the only sleaze who would do that!
Damn, this is Best Protagonist, not most relatable character. I have come to realize that it is so much easier to pick Best Antagonist than it is Protagonist. When it comes to villains, all I gotta do is look at who's the most devious one, or who has the best reasoning. But for protagonists, it's a lot harder to judge what exactly I'm looking for. Is it growth throughout the season? Is it their personality? How cool they are? How relatable can they be? When it came to this season, I found that a lot of the protagonists had elements of each, but no one was calling out to me like in the previous awards. It took me a lot longer to narrow down who my favorite protagonist of the season was, but when it came down to it, I ended up going with Best Protagonist: Sadafi, the Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beast. I was this close to giving it to Toga for the lulz, but after some consideration, I found that Sadafi fits the role of Best Protagonist a lot better. Forced away by her own species as a sacrifice at birth, the only future Sadafi had was death. But once she meets the King of Beast, the one who was destined to take her life, she's surprised to find that he never intended to take it in the first place. With the humans not understanding that her life was spared, she's shunned by her own people out of fear of beastly retribution. But she never wanted to go back in the first place. And it's not out of edge or spite. Since she was born to be a sacrifice, she cut herself off from long-lasting relationships to spare the feelings of those around her. Now she feels as if she's finally found a home amongst the beast of all people. But even in her new home, she still faces the prejudice that she grew up with. Watching Sadafi, this small and by no offense, weak little girl stand on her own 2 feet over and over, fighting for what she believes in to prove that she has what it takes to stand by the King of Beast's side as his rightful bride to the whole kingdom of those that only wish for her downfall, is incredibly inspirational. Suletta was also a very close contender for Best Protagonist. She has grown a lot since part 1 and she's finally cut her strings and stands as her own person. But I think Sadafi just slightly overtook her in this season. Most underrated. I feel like this is less than usual. Where did all the other... Oh, that's where most of the usual suspects went. While not much, each one of these shows offered a little something unique. 2Q Crisis is a show that my sister absolutely fell in love with. It's about an extremely advanced alien who comes to Earth looking to destroy it, only to fall in love with the most dangerous creature known to man. The cat. It's wholesome, it's funny, and if you're a pet lover, this show is right up your alley. Oh, it hurts not seeing Gundam break the top 20 again. I'm not sure what it is about this show, but it can't seem to catch a break when it comes to Anime Corner. Part 2 has been chock full of political intrigue, masterful manipulations, and it has just as much Gundam action as Part 1. On this list, Otaku Wolf and My Clueless First Friends are the most wholesome shows. If you're in need of something nice and calming to help unwind from your day, these are the two for you. And The Legendary Hero is Dead is not only my favorite comedy of the season, but it's also my favorite dub by far. You can tell that the cast is going absolutely wild with this one, and what a cast it is. If you're decently versed enough in the anime dubbing community, the voices you hear saying some of these lines will leave you absolutely hysterical. With all that said, that only leaves one show that I haven't talked about. Most underrated: Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beast. TLDR, it's Beauty and the Beast, but much more fleshed out. And that's not a diss on Beauty and the Beast, and saying Sacrificial Princess is a version of the story is kind of doing it dirty. There are two realms, the human realm and the beast realm. Tensions are high between the two as the humans send sacrifices to appease the beast realm, and the inhabitants of the beast realm expect their king to eat them. What I like most about this show is the relationships the most recent sacrifice makes amongst the people of the beast realm. It isn't easy for her in the slightest. Some are kinder than others, but for the most part, she's looked down upon in horror and disdain. Another thing here is that the king of beasts doesn't let her survive the sacrifice because she's special. It's just who he is. While he might have a tough exterior, on the inside he's extremely kind-hearted. I don't want to spoil this show too much because a lot of the hook is in the first episode along with a few twists and turns. I do recommend it quite a bit though. It gives me Somali and the Forest Spirit kind of vibes, especially with the divide between humans and beasts. So if you like that, there's a good chance you'll enjoy this. Anime of the season. Oh man, this might be one of the most diverse list of nominations I've had in these award videos. Each one of these is special in its own way and it brings its own unique flavor to the table. Coming back into the world of Dr. Stone was an absolute blast, especially with the new characters and the expanding world. Sacrificial Princess told a sweet story between two people. Insomniacs, Skip and Loafer, and Yamada-kun were the three best romances of the season by far and all had such incredible cast and chemistry amongst the characters. Gundam once again fires on every cylinder and it has been one of my favorites to watch, with every episode leaving me on the edge of my seat. Heavenly Delusions may not have won a single thing this season, but that is not to cut it short either. It is a fantastic action drama with incredible twists and turns that keep you glued to your seat. But of all of these, who was the one to come out on top? Anime of the season. Heavenly Delusions. One clip was all it took for me to want to watch this show. No, not that clip, not that clip. I saw this on Instagram and it was immediately hooked. I had no idea what the story was about. All that I did know was that there was this really fluid choreography. And while the action is there, the story is what drew me into the strange world that is Heavenly Delusions. Taking place on two fronts. In one story, we follow so-called children in an ominous high-tech orphanage, while in the other, we follow two characters in the wastelands of a crumbled society. Monsters have overrun the world, sending humanity into chaos as they struggle to survive. Both stories feel so incredibly different, but they each hold you on the edge of your seat as you try to solve the mysteries of the world. What's the past? What's the present? And how did it all end up like this? Of all the anime that aired this season, this is the one that called out to me the most. I became immediately invested in the world and characters and could not wait to see each episode as the mysteries began to unravel themselves. I don't like saying this word too much because it could end up losing its meaning really quickly, but this right here felt special compared to everything else that came out this season. The best way I can describe it is that it's a Promised Neverland and The Last of Us hybrid with an intriguing mystery that'll hook you at the very start. Nothing ever seems right in this world, and you are always questioning the smallest bits and pieces. It's been a while since I felt like this towards anything, and it felt so refreshing to come back every week to get one more piece of a puzzle, only to find out it created 100 more pieces to find. Spring 2023 was a bit rough for Isekai fans. If you enjoyed the shows, power to you, but I feel like many of them just fell short. Demon Slayer was a surprising miss for me, and I'm sad to say that Oshinoko's hype kind of killed it for me. I was expecting way too much out of both of them, and after a fantastic first episode for Oshinoko, for me personally, the show kind of petered out pretty quickly. That's not saying that the season was bad at all though. Romance was king this season with Yamada-kun and Insomniacs. I knew I would like both, but Yamada was adorable and I never expected to feel so deeply towards Insomniacs. I am so glad to say that Dr. Stone has not skipped a beat since season 2, and Heavenly Delusion was an absolute surprise that I was not expecting this season. It sucks that we'll have to wait for more manga content because the story is just beginning and there is so much more to tell. I still need to catch up on Vinland Saga, so while I wait for summer seasonals to stack up, I'm just going to be searching for Vinland. But if you need some recommendations to pass the time, of the 36 shows I watched and reviewed, here are my personal top 5, with a wild card. My number 1 recommendation has to be The Witch from Mercury. This is an absolute must-watch. If you haven't seen part 1, now is the perfect time to binge because the series is over. That's right, there's no more waiting around. This was my first Gundam series and I am officially hooked, so if you find me nose deep in Iron-Blooded Orphan soons, you'll have this masterpiece to blame. Heavenly Delusion is an obvious shoehorn for this season's recommendations. The only reason it's not number 1 is mostly due to the fact that it's an incomplete story and there's going to be a lot of waiting until season 2 comes around to finally get some of those must-needed answers. At number 3, we have a personal favorite of mine, Insomniacs After School. If you're looking for something sweet to wind down to at the end of a long day, this is the show for you. Number 4 is a tie between Loving Yamada-kun at level 999 and Skip and Loafer. These shows are pretty different, with one being a fairly straightforward romance and the other being a goofy slice of life. But both were some of the best shows of the season and I couldn't bring myself to exclude either one of them. And at number 5 we have Dr. Stone Season 3. What can I possibly say? If you're not watching Dr. Stone already, you are missing out. My only complaint for this season is that it was way too short and I need more now. The legendary hero is dead is this season's wildcard, but only really in the dub. Like I said before, the lines that some of these voice actors are reading make me bust a gut every time. Is it perfect? God no, but it is funny as hell. At least when it comes to my sense of humor. Let me know your top 5 in the comments down below and make sure to subscribe to catch the summer awards. Thank you so much to our patrons, Sage, Kamer, Rachel Del Fiero, Mr. Mophead, Jason S., Carlos Guzman, Ann Leafdoor, and Matthew Garcia for supporting the channel with your donations. If you want to help out and support the channel, for just $1 you can get early access and uncensored versions of all of the content on our channel so you can be the first person to see it the way it was meant to be seen. Pop into a stream if you want to catch my live thoughts on some of the shows airing right now. Even if the stream isn't about anime, I'll answer any questions. Thank you all so very much for watching and don't forget to subscribe. Remember to keep watching anime. Bye-bye.